order. Call the meeting to order at 6:30, and I would look for a motion to go into closed session.
I'll move to go into closed session.
Megan, do I have a second?
I will second that.
Kate? I believe we do a roll
We
call.
have to do a roll call, yeah. Hold on a second. Okay, Howery,
Yes.
Green,
Yes.
Fisher, here, Mooney,
Yes.
and Fessler.
Yes.
Okay, we will move across the hallway into closed session.
And I will reopen,
See you when I see you.
I'll reopen the webinar and when we
Start at 6:30.
are back and open.
This is only going to take half an hour.
One second.
No, I know.
So we are back in open session at 7:17. Please do.
Okay, give me one moment. The webinar is starting.
Okay, we have consent agenda items that include the minutes of the September 19th, 2022 school board meeting, some professional staffing recommendations and co-curricular staffing recommendations, as well as administrative staffing recommendations. I would look for a motion to approve the consent agenda items as presented.
I will do that.
Thank you, Bruce. Do I have a second?
I can second that.
Thank you, Megan. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0, and we have some personnel items that are unnecessary for vote, and we will move to public comments. We do have at least one, so as soon as I find it, I will read my piece. Oh, maybe you'll have to help me, Angie.
It's
Oh,
right in
wait,
that
I
one on
think
the
it's
next
here. I've got
page.
it. All right. In accordance with School Board Policy 167.3, the McFarland School Board welcomes public comment during regular meetings. The board will accept public comments via individuals who are physically present at the board meeting, who are participating in the board meeting virtually, or who have sent an email to the board president or superintendent in advance of the meeting. Please note the following. Participants are required to register their intention to participate in the noticed public comment portion of the meeting upon their arrival at the meeting, and shall begin their comments by stating their name, address, and group affiliation, if and when appropriate. Participants shall address only topics within the legitimate jurisdiction of the board. The board members will not directly respond to comments and may only take action on topics that are on the published agenda. Participants are asked to limit their comments to 5 minutes in duration. Written comments will have a word limit of 250. The portion of the meeting for public comments is limited to 60 minutes unless extended by a vote of the board. And finally, participants shall direct all comments to the board and observe reasonable decorum. So, we have one public comment.
Craig, would you be comfortable if I asked members of the public who may be viewing via Zoom to register while the
Please do.
person in person?
Thank you.
Okay. All right, if you'd like to make a public appearance by speaking to the board, please utilize the Q&A portion found at the bottom of your Zoom window. In the Q&A, we would ask that you type your name, address, subject of interest, and whether you have discussed this item prior to the meeting with either a district administrator or President Howery. After submitting that information, I would transfer you over to speak to the board. Thank you.
Okay. Dr. Hickey. Thank you for coming.
Thanks for being here. Do I gotta do anything here?
No, I don't think yet.
I think
You're good. You
I
don't
think
have to-
it's,
Yeah,
okay.
it's lit. I think it's ready to go. Thank you.
Jim Hickey, 2401 Evans Road, McFarland. My affiliation is, community member and, former employee. And my subject of interest is the current situation with Ann Pingle-Nichols. Members of the Board of Education, Mr. Tarnitzer, MHS students, faculty, and staff. First and foremost, I feel for everyone within our community at large and the school community impacted by the current situation. I am not here to second guess any decisions that have been made, nor to in any way defend the use of the N-word. Rather, I am here to acknowledge Ms. Nichols for the years of service she provided to the McFarland School District. With all the vitriol and emotions that have been generated from this situation, I believe it is important at this moment to acknowledge that Ms. Pingle-Nichols, as a lifelong member of our McFarland community, as a K-12 student and graduate of this very school district, as a choral teacher and an administrator, certainly over the years has had to have done some good in her efforts to make a positive difference, some good. As a former school administrator, I understand very well that barnacles can collect on any ship that has been out at sea for some time. This is the nature of the business and the position. Regardless, it is during these times like this that it will not hurt any of us, regardless of our opinion, to take a moment and reflect and be a bit humble in our judgment going forward. By doing so, we might help the healing process for all those impacted from whichever lens and from any background that they or one may come to view this current matter. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hickey. Appreciate it.
Appreciate your time.
Is there anything else, Angie?
We have not had anyone else register.
Okay, then we will move along to the high school student report. There
All
we
right,
are.
hi everybody.
There we are.
All right, one second. Let me just share my screen here. Awesome. Okie dokie. Oh, not that. Okay. All right, so oh gosh, here we go. Next student update presentation. Not a lot, or I suppose there isn't a whole lot to talk about regarding student updates, but we did have homecoming week this past week. But before we begin, as it is School Board Appreciation Week, we just want to say thank you, McFarland School Board, for all that you do to help our district be the best it can be, and all of your efforts towards making McFarland a better place. So yeah, thank you guys for that. Yeah. And homecoming week at MHS. So at MHS, we had our homecoming spirit week. There was color day, movie dress up day, crazy hat day, throwback Thursday, and Spartan Pride Day. On Friday, we also held the 2022 homecoming pep rally with fun activities for both students and staff, like tug of war, musical chairs, and a relay for the elected homecoming court. This is a really fun activity to kind of uplift the spirits of students over the past week. But on a more, on a different note, McFarland won the homecoming game on Friday, September 30th, 38-6 against East Troy. So halftime was filled with a performance from the marching band, the dance team, and the announcement of the 2022 homecoming court royalty. So that was really fun. I know the students really enjoyed the homecoming game and feel very proud of our team. Here are some pictures from the homecoming week. So we've got our homecoming court, and then some pictures from the football game, as well as the student section and their Spartan Pride. And now I will turn it over to Valerie to talk about some stuff that our club has been doing.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Valerie, as Joey mentioned. And so we kind of got off to the year with a running start, and so we started with a focus on the strategic planning that's been going on for the district and trying to get some student voice involved, which was a little bit difficult considering school started about 3 weeks ago. But we did send a survey to IMMS and to MHS, and high school Connect members attended a listening session. Overall, we compiled the results that will continue to, that will be shared with the strategic planning committee. So just like kind of going through a couple of the themes we found and kind of just putting it out there. Some of the strengths that we've seen in the district from around 150 students. Sorry, my voice is like giving out. But we have a really supportive staff. Teachers reach out to students. A lot of teachers were talking about those connections that were built, in addition to a very supportive community that's very internet, and there's a lot of places you can go. the DEI work that's been going on and been starting to ramp up has been really a good effect on students. And overall, it's like a really good effort, and also excellent facilities, especially at the high school, especially with the new updates a few years back. Now, some things we could work on, and these are just more like weaknesses. Obviously, we can't change everything right away, but a lot of students voice a want for more diversity, especially in their teachers. A lot of them would like to be seen and hope for that connection. Sometimes some students were saying that the community feels a little too tight-knit. It's a little bit hard to come in as someone new or someone on the outside, and just kind of having some more student involvement in higher up decision-making, which has been getting a lot better recently as well. So some opportunities we also we found in our surveys for mental health resources, whether that be getting another counselor or reaching out to staff and allowing them to kind of get some help as well. That leads into the next point, student and staff outreach, just kind of being there for everyone, and community openness, bringing in other people, bringing in other resources, and kind of exploring new opportunities. Lastly, we identified some threats that could happen with these goals. Obviously funding. I know money doesn't grow on trees, so it's going to be hard to achieve a lot of things, but that's what a lot of students mentioned. Well, they recognize that based on one thing or another, it might like not come the way some students would like. And lastly, just not enough resources for staff and students, in addition to families, and kind of just bringing that all together. So essentially, we're going to continue looking at these results and analyzing them. We made a little infographic about these results, and that'll go out to our student body soon in our newsletter that we are planning on kickstarting. So I think that's it. Yeah. So if you have any questions, you can reach out to us. All the Connect Board's emails are on there, including our advisor. And I don't know if Joey has anything else to add. If not,
No, just thank you guys for your time. Are there any questions at all?
So yeah, that's kind of all the updates we have.
I'd just like to congratulate you on the work you've done thus far. I think your the questions and the circumstances that you're trying to get to in your survey are just spot on. You know, those are exactly the things that we work on and that we worry about every day as well. So congratulations on that, and thank you. And know that we really do appreciate the student input that we're getting, and it's a very critically important part of the strategic planning process. So thank you very much. Anybody else got anything?
Thank you.
Sure. Anybody?
Thank you. No.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's it. Thank you very much, and
Awesome. Thank you guys.
have a great week.
You too.
You too.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so that brings us to informational items. Wisconsin Superintendent Evaluation Presentation. Mr. Tarnitzer,
Yes.
Take it
moving
away.
Forward, we have Dan Urad, who's going to come and share a little bit about the WASB model with us. So thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Excited to have you here. My name is Dan Nerad, and I'm one of the consultants with WSB. And before I get into my brief presentation, on behalf of WSB, I do want to thank you. We do want to thank you for the work that you do as a school board, especially during this annual time of board recognition. It's very, very much appreciated. So, and thanks again for your interest in looking at the WSB Superintendent Evaluation Framework. I thought what I would, just in terms of briefly, in terms of my background, you know, I've been in education quite a long time. It's probably
Excuse me.
pretty,
How do you spell your last name?
Nerad.
Thank you.
And I spent 33 years of my career in the Green Bay School District. The last 7 I was their superintendent. And then I was superintendent in Madison for 4 years. And then I finished my superintendent work in a district, a suburban Detroit district, Birmingham Public Schools. I was there for 6 years. So I've had an interest as an individual practitioner a lot in the area of leadership and leadership development. And this was very much an important related piece of that interest. And so a couple years ago, 3 of us at WSB spent some time taking a look at what could a framework look like, recognizing that there are other frameworks out there. And certainly there are some similarities with the frameworks, and there are some differences, obviously, as well. And so what we did is we did put together a framework that's been implemented over the past about 1.5 years, and kind of softly implemented, if you will. We have 32 districts that have signed on at this point in time, and more presentations coming. I have like 3 additional presentations coming up because there seems to be growing interest in it. But it's okay that it's growing at kind of a relatively reasonable pace, if you will. So with that said, let me just share some of the highlights of the WSB framework. And then I'll share with you, if you're interested in pursuing it, what is involved with that. And that doesn't take a long time. So our framework is based on a number of key purposes relative to the development of your superintendent. The first purpose, and it's oftentimes not necessarily thought of, is to help develop a strong board superintendent partnership. Because the research is clear about its importance, and goodness knows, for your culture and your community, it's just critically important that there be a strong partnership based on mutual respect and an understanding of how your roles are similar and how your roles are different. Another purpose is to focus on elevating student achievement. At the end of the day, that really is what becomes critical in terms of the overall work of a superintendent of schools. Another purpose is to provide more regular and ongoing feedback to the superintendent regarding, in this case, his work, and so that can contribute to his development as a practitioner. And then the final purpose I would just highlight, and we believe this is critically important, and it falls in the category of modeling. With Wisconsin's, educator effectiveness model, it's important that everyone is developing as practitioners. And it's critically important that the superintendent play a role in modeling the importance of that development for others as well. So you have alignment. And what's good for the teachers and what's good for the principals is also good for the superintendent as well, recognizing that the frameworks may be different. Well, they have to be different, if you will. The framework that was developed also meets legal requirements within our state. And I would say to you that there aren't that many. There are some, but so let me highlight just a few of them for you. One is that it must be aligned to the job description and job-related duties. And what most school boards are finding, and so I'll just say this, because if you're there, you're not alone, is that the superintendent job description hasn't been looked at for a good number of years. And it's important that you have a contemporary superintendent job description. So, whether you get involved with this framework or not, you should be looking at that job description. And maybe it is current, and maybe it is contemporary, and, I don't know. Because I haven't seen it, to be fair. But the evaluation must align to the job description and job-related duties. And within our framework, we have a method for you to be able to accomplish that. It must include observations by board members. That's one of the legal requirements in the state. And we also have method to be able to accommodate that without creating a lot of additional work in the process. The evaluation must be timely. It must be in line with the superintendent's contract. And obviously, it must comply with school board policies. Now, some districts have policies that, have mention about superintendent evaluation. Other districts, and many other districts, don't necessarily have policies that reflect that. And, either way is okay from our perspective, but if you have language in policy, it should be adhered to as you're doing the evaluation. So why this framework? It recognizes the need for continuous ongoing growth. It provides timely and constructive feedback. It uses student data as a key piece of the evaluation. Our framework is unique in that it recognizes the difference between first-year superintendents and beyond first-year superintendents. We have two different methodologies, and either one, I mean, even recognizing that you have a first-year superintendent here, you can choose either method, which we would explain in much more detail, should you decide to use WSB, and in the training that we would provide, how that would work. But it does recognize that difference in terms of, landing into the position as opposed to the ongoing important work. Obviously, all of it's important work, but landing into the position, transitioning in, as well as the ongoing work of the superintendent. The framework also recognizes limitations to the legal requirement in Wisconsin to every 3-year evaluations. Wisconsin says you must evaluate in the first year and every 3 years thereafter. Our position is it should be annual, and it should be at least twice a year. One more formative in nature, providing feedback, less formal if you will, and one based on a more formal approach that is built into our framework as well. But we have a strong view that Wisconsin's legal requirement, especially if this is done in a growth-oriented way, in a collaborative way, in terms of helping the superintendent grow and providing that feedback. I mean, we can't wait 3 years to get that kind of feedback. It has to be ongoing and regular. So just a couple of other things. I just mentioned that the word collaboration. And we feel that if you select WSB's framework, our sense is that you would find it built on a strong base of how boards and superintendents work together in collaboration. And we feel that's extremely important. And said it a little bit differently, we don't look at evaluation as just a checkoff, just an activity that's done whatever number of years you would decide to do it. It's to provide constructive feedback, and more important, to have the kind of discussions that will allow for not only the growth of your superintendent, but in essence, because of the importance of that role, the growth of the entire school district. So we really want to underscore that this is really built on a framework of collaboration and focusing on, in this case, his development and growth. So let me just highlight the difference a little bit between the first year and beyond the first year superintendent, if you will. The first year superintendent, well, let me just say what's true with both of them, regardless of first year or beyond first year, is that it's built on a self-assessment. So the work of the evaluation, when you decide how often you're going to do it, begins with him completing a self-assessment. And then you completing individually your assessments, and then providing a total assessment from the Board of Education. So for the first year superintendent, it's based on a set of what we call key prompts and questions. We have about a dozen that you could choose that relate to the first year work of a superintendent. In completing that self-assessment, he would provide you reflection on those prompts and questions. You would provide him feedback, and you would have a discussion. The prompts and questions are not the evaluation in and of themselves. They're the starting point for the evaluation and for the important conversation that would take place. Now, we don't recommend that you take all 12 of those prompts and questions and include them in the evaluation. One of the things we're trying to do is to help you identify what's most important to you and to have this be a manageable process. And so what you'll find is that if you take a big, long list of prompts and questions, which is your prerogative, if you would want to pursue all of them, that is your choice. But we recommend 3 or 4. that you focus on based on your priorities that really kind of address your needs. And you can also add to those prompts and questions as well. So first year evaluation is based on responses from your superintendent, self-assessment, and from the board on those prompts and questions. They're based on a review of the job description, and we show you a way to be able to do that. If he has any entry plan, that can be part of that discussion as well as any professional development plan. So one of your responsibilities, should you use that part of the framework, is to decide with your superintendent, again, this is all collaborative, which of those prompts and questions are most important for you to focus on for your evaluation. Let's talk briefly about the difference with the beyond first year superintendent. Again, based on the current job description, we'll show you a method for doing that. The evaluation is really based on, for beyond the first year superintendent, on the Professional Standard for Educational Leaders 2015, which have been incorporated into the state of Wisconsin's work with leadership development, leaders of all types in educational settings. And so, and those have really been worked on, not federally, but where groups of key national organizations of educational leaders have come together over the years and defined what the standard for superintendent leadership should look like, if you will. And there are 10 of them. Again, we do not recommend you focus on all 10 for an evaluation. We recommend, again, a focus on 3 of them, 3 or 4. You can focus on more, you can certainly focus on less, and we would help you focus on which of those standards are most important to you. The evaluation for the beyond first year superintendent has a rubric for each of those standards. And under the rubric, there are performance indicators that, in this case, he would again begin with his self-assessment, provide that to you. Individually, you would complete an assessment using a near identical rubric. And, you know, if you should decide to select us, we would help you see why we use the word near identical, because there are just a few slight differences. But you would complete those rubrics. You'd complete a tally of those rubrics where you would have a board contribution. In other words, every individual board member would complete, and then there would be a gathering of the group input. And then finally, again, I want to underscore, those rubrics are not the evaluation in and of itself. They're the starting point for the conversation. And they don't represent, in the end, the final evaluation. For both of those types of evaluations, we provide you a sample of a narrative summary that you would use for the evaluation. Those are like your notes. You know, the rubrics are like your notes. Your prompts and questions are like your notes for your discussion, but they're not the evaluation in and of themselves. So we recommend 3 of those standards be looked at annually. You can change annually. You don't have to change annually, because there's also this concept of defined focus over time, and there's nothing magic about a year evaluation to necessarily have each of those work in those rubric areas completed. The standards should be selected mutually with the board and superintendent, and when possible, time-wise, they should be selected at the end of the prior year's evaluation. So you have a full year where your superintendent can focus on those 3 areas of leadership development. Now, we would help you if you're kind of like, well, we're going to do the evaluation, I'm making this up now, like in 4 months, we would help you figure out how to get into that in that period of time. So let me just summarize, and then I'll stop. Our evaluation is very much based on collaboration between the board and the superintendent, initiated with self-assessment, board member input, obviously. And one of the things I just want to highlight on that last point The evaluation represents a consensus view of the board. It doesn't represent anything individual unless the board agrees as a board that it should be included in the evaluation. Now, we also have ideas on how to get individual input expressed, but that should not be incorporated in the evaluation. So again, the evaluation, we recommend every year. We recommend a more informal mid-year, and we recommend a formal evaluation annually. And then if you should decide to go with WSB Framework, there would be help in terms of its implementation. The way it works is it's a $600 subscription for 3 years. And we would provide within that $600 2 hours of training to be able to implement the evaluation framework. I've never held, I mean, if you needed 3 hours, we would provide that. We've never held to the 2 hours. And if you wanted a 1 hour training and then another 1 hour training on it, we would provide that as well. We want to work with you to implement this in the right way. So let me stop with that and see if you have some questions of me with you tonight.
I have one. Is the $600 for all 3 years or $600 annually? For the
It's $600 for all 3 years.
Okay. Thank you.
Dan,
Yes.
I'd like to ask a question. You talked about part of the board's responsibility is to, through observation, take a look at the superintendent. What does that entail?
Well, here's what we recommend on that. And we provide a place in the evaluation to have that input included. We do not recommend scheduled observations because our belief is that your ongoing work with your superintendent has plenty opportunity for you to complete observation, whether it's in the boardroom, whether it's at community events, whether it's within schools. So we are not asking boards to schedule observations and for the purpose of the evaluation. We're asking you to include observation information based on what you're currently doing. Does that answer your question?
It certainly does. It really clears it up. I have another question. You talked about, let's make sure that our job description for the superintendent is updated. And at the same time, you talked about the professional performance standards that were identified in 2015. There's 10 of them. What happens if we see that there's a disjoint between those two things?
Well, my belief is that and we now have a sample in the framework that we would provide you. We have a sample job description that aligns to the standards because we think that that's the basis in which your alignment should occur. It shouldn't be changing the evaluation based on what the job description says. You want to be able to have a job description that, to what extent you're comfortable, having it aligned to those same set of standards. And we have a sample that shows you what that can look like.
Okay, thanks. Just one more question.
Sure.
I viewed the video on the WASB website.
Right.
What is the tutorial training that you're talking about? Would you be sharing some of that that's already available out there, or would you be talking about a whole different aspect of this partnership collaboration?
No, we would spend the majority of that time on the process elements of this framework. We can do that additional work, and to what extent we can include some of that in that presentation, that would be fine with me. But again, we want you to feel confident in what processes you would use. First, confident with the processes for the evaluation. And then if you're interested in additional things on collaboration and other things related to governance, we're certainly willing to have that conversation too.
And then just one other question that I was thinking of. You indicated that you've had this soft opening for about 100 years, for a year and a half.
Right.
What has been your initial feedback or impression on how that has gone?
I feel it's gone pretty well. I mean, I think there are a lot of boards, there are other choices. There are other choices within the state of Wisconsin for evaluation framework. And so, you know, we encourage you to look at whatever you want to look at and decide what works best for you as a board. But the sessions with the boards and superintendents, I think, have been very constructive, and my sense is that people have been felt helped by the process. There are a number of places that haven't had a formal evaluation process, so there appears to be kind of an appreciation to kind of having a well-defined process. But what you'll see with our process is there's a lot of built-in flexibility in terms of number of standards you might want to focus on, how you want to focus on those standards. There's just a lot of flexibility that you can arrive at.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Anybody else have any questions or comments for Dan? If not, thank you very much
Well,
for coming to visit, and we appreciate it very much.
You're more than welcome, and thank you for your time, and take care of yourselves.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, moving on. I believe we've got WEVA's annual performance report, Dr. Cutler and Dr. Brown.
Dr. Brown's going to let Dr. Cutler handle it, but I wanted to let the board know that we're at the final stages of preparing the two contracts. One is the contract between Four Lakes, is the board of the virtual schools, and Stride, the provider of services, and then also the contract then between Four Lakes and the district. We anticipate that we'll bring it to the board at your first meeting in November. We could do it, one meeting sooner, but it's really not a crisis, and I know you have a pretty busy meeting coming up, the second meeting in October with your annual meeting. So that's our plan. I wanted to update you on that. And since I have the opportunity to introduce my colleague here, you all know I've been working with the virtual school through my time as superintendent here, and then just before Aaron came, and I'll be helping out at least for another year or so here. I just want to, I wouldn't say this if I didn't believe it, I wanted to speak highly of Dr. Cutler and her work. I've worked with a variety of different leaders in the school, and I can assure you that she is up to the task and is doing a phenomenal job. I don't know how she presents. She could be a really lousy presenter, but the other things I've seen, I'm pretty confident in it. Right? So,
Right. Thank you, Dr. Brown. Thank you very, very, very much. And it's really a pleasure to be here again. I enjoyed being here this spring, and believe that our partnership is really crucial and paramount to serving kids in McFarland, but with our schools all across the state. So I did provide you with an annual report narrative, and I'm certainly not going to read that to you. I wanted to point out a few pieces in the packet, really beginning at page 4. The first couple of pages describe the strategic planning process that we went through, that you are also embarking upon a similar process, and that set our goals that we are now well into for our second year. But I want to start with the student highlight page. Every month, a principal brings, or one of our administrators bring a student to the board meeting, and these students are often also put on our Facebook pages and celebrated across multiple avenues. And we really believe this is the heart of what we do, is to provide educational opportunities to students across the state that otherwise would not be schooling or be successful. So each of their stories is quite beautiful, and we will have more coming this year, and you can see our Facebook pages for them as well. But those narrative data points, I believe, are as important as the quantitative data points that you'll see in the later. Excuse me. So the next page, I just wanted to point out a few of the data that we are looking at now. You can see that When I entered as the executive director, I spent a lot of time looking at data and listening sessions and going through the strategic plan. And now, looking at where we've been in the last year and where we're headed next, I think is the most important point. So our common withdrawal metric is basically how many kids leave, right? So kids choose to come to us, and that's a benefit to you as a district, it's a benefit to students, it's a benefit to our organization. And so we measure how many students choose to leave throughout the year and why, and we keep quite a bit of data on that. So you can see the percentage of within year students, the total enrollment, our 9-month average, and the number of withdrawals. And then, as you know, every month, not every month, less and less, but on a monthly basis, we bring a list of students to you that we ask to have withdrawn. And that's through the failure to participate process, which is a state process. And here are the numbers if going from the right and then up to the left are the total numbers of students that have been withdrawn on our decision-making process over the last 5 years. And you can see that process has been a really large focus for us, that it's through an MTSS process that those students are brought. And I want to personally guarantee you that any student's name who comes to your board meeting has gone through a rigorous process of support before we say you're not succeeding with us. And I want to recognize Principal Cindy Warden, who also is here this evening and has an incredibly long tenure with Wisconsin Virtual Academies and is a rock at our high school and has been instrumental in rethinking this year how we support students in some of the most innovative ways I've experienced as a leader. So we are continuing to look at that, and I mean, we'll be even more excited in a year from now to tell you how we have tweaked that process. Then any other pieces of data, we continue to look at graduation rates as you do that same data, and that is consistently been pretty much the same over the last 4 years, but we are edging a little bit higher each year, and I believe this is probably the most important data point I could be focused on is to get kids to a high school diploma. Many, many, many students come to us with a risk of not graduating from high school, and we get them there. And we want every kid to leave with a plan. They leave high school and they have a solid plan and a future ahead of them. So these are the graduation rates and dropout rates are a key area data that I'll be looking at and continually bringing back to you. The last 2 pages are data on our academic growth targets. We are very much focused on growth rates rather than just proficiency. And then the culture and climate, I included a staffing report. Years before I came, staff retention was an area of concern, and really proud to report that we are able to really retain high quality staff, and we do not have any vacancies other than growth vacancies. So getting more students and needing to hire. Finally, the before the graduation page, which has got beautiful pictures and some narrative pieces for you to enjoy. The one piece that is also part of the new charter contract that you'll see coming and that I think is really important is the staff, student, and family advisory work. So as you heard such wonderful voices of your students, we are doing that work as well, bringing in a staff advisory, a student and a family advisory once a month, who are really working towards shared governance. So we now have a member of this family council coming to our board meetings and then coming back. We have sort of a shared structure of report and representation there on our parent advisory council, and then also our staff advisory council is not just getting the work, culture, and climate in a survey, but actually reaching out and holding their own listening sessions modeled after what I had done earlier, to hear from staff on a regular basis. So I'll leave it at that and leave time for any questions you might have.
Anybody have any questions for Dr. Cutler?
I have a question.
Yeah.
With your data, how do you include students who maybe take one class a semester with you guys versus enrolled full-time?
So the data you see here are full-time students, and you can see from the in DCA numbers on the common withdrawal metric, the total enrollment last year of our part-time students was 50. This is on, and I just realized there's no page numbers, but I'm sorry about that. So we did, but we have, actually this year, we're looking at that number doubling already. As you know, we continue to get enrollment all school year, so that's why there's a 9-month average and not just a total enrollment, because the 9-month average is really where we mark kind of where we are year over year. But yeah, our part-time students do not take our STAR testing.
Okay, but do you track anything with them on, I guess, the success of
Passing rate is really the key point there. Passing rate and then credits acquired.
Okay.
That's absolutely key.
Okay.
And many of our part-time students are coming in our Destinations Career Academy. And if you don't know much about that, and if you would like to come to our externship programming this year, I would love to send you an invitation. One of the pathways is our Construction Academy, which is unique to the entire state. It's the only place in the state of Wisconsin you can get a pre-apprenticeship for heavy machine operation. And in Coloma, we have an externship twice a year, and we'll be doing that again in November, where students all over the state come to check it out, and then we get part-time enrollment through that. So they don't have to leave their high school. They come to us and they can take the 5 courses and be first in line for acceptance into that apprenticeship program, which has a waiting list and is very difficult to get into.
Is that kind of taken off?
Oh, yeah. Well, honestly, there was a dip for a year. It was really had a good start, and then there was a dip. And then with a full-time principal at DCA, with her experience, it really has now shifted. And we are not only working on that as a pathway, we're looking at expanding our pathway. So in a year from now, I hope to be sharing with you that we have an ag pathway that we've expanded, that maybe we have some blended programs. We are partnering with CSAs all over the state so that those students can enroll part-time through a CSA and then do that any of our pathway courses, because not all districts can afford to offer 6 pathways in CTE, but we can provide that and offer that to students across the state.
Do many of our students, are they involved in that?
That's a good question. I don't know that off the top of my head. And it's pretty rare. It's not, I don't believe there are any that I currently know of. I would love to, Aaron, Aaron's got enough on his plate right now, but eventually we will start brainstorming more about what we can offer, because really I think there's more that we can benefit and partner with, the resources we can bring to McFarland School District as our authorizer. And, your partnership with us is crucial. Scott and I were chatting earlier today about just how innovative it was that you started authorizing, and now we're the biggest opportunity for kids across the state, and our enrollment is not going down at all. And we thought it might post-COVID, but it is not. Many students are finding great success, and there's more and more beautiful stories that we hear. And if you get a chance to come to graduation, it's unlike any other.
It is. It's a great experience. I was at the first one. I think there was maybe 12 kids there.
Yeah. Well, you can see, and this is not all the graduates.
It's a whole
This is about
different-
a third of
Yeah.
them. About a third, Cindy? Yeah.
Well, it's incredible to see the difference.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And in terms of that DCA is such an incredible opportunity in a field where they're just screaming to get people involved in it.
Right, and we want our construction pathway to be beyond just operating engineers and in conversation with other trades, because there really is, yes, we have had technical education for decades, but the kind of curriculum that is now needed for students to enter those trades, it needs quite a bit of revisement. So we're working on that with the trades as well.
That's just
Has there been any
fantastic.
looking into, I guess, Aaron, this is probably for you, about the reciprocity? In other words, people who are in WEVA taking I mean, we have an outstanding technical and, some of our trades we're like cutting edge, if you ask me. And I was wondering, is there any talk about the WEVA students coming in and taking a class?
Yeah, like a blended opportunity.
Right.
That's something I'm looking into as far as something we would like to see is having more blended opportunities. It wasn't a priority before,
Yeah.
and it takes a different kind of structure of our resources.
Sure, and you
But
have,
I absolutely think
Yeah.
that would be,
yeah.
and the sharing of curriculum. Some of the way we are able to, with Stride as a management company, leverage their curriculum too.
That's wonderful.
It's also, I think financially can be really beneficial for McFarland as a school district when we look at partnerships going down the line. There's just so many more possibilities, but I get pretty excited about what we can offer kids.
Yeah,
As do we.
yes.
It's a fantastic job. Any other questions? Tom, have you got anything for Dr. Cutler?
Yeah, I have a couple things here. First of all, when I met with Sarah and Scott over the summer, one of the concerns I shared was the number of withdrawals, throughout the school year. And Sarah reiterated at that point, like she did tonight, is that they are rethinking on how to better support student success. So I'm glad to hear that. And I think what you're doing will make a significant difference for others also. Secondly, having been involved with WEVA as a board liaison 2 or 3 years ago, again now, there's been some really nice changes. I think it'll benefit families, kids. Your staff retention rate is great. So I look forward to our continued partnership with you in the future.
Thank you, Tom, and thank you for serving as a liaison to our board as well. It's great to have you there.
Anything else? If not, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Best of luck and
Scott, you did
keep
all
up the
right,
great
I
work.
She did okay.
Didn't she? Yeah, I think she kind of actually outpresented anything I ever presented.
I'd agree.
No. Oh, yeah. We'll see you all back in November then. So,
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
McFarland's Best Award, Aaron.
Yes, it is my privilege to share with you. I know you've seen this in the McFarland minutes, but wanted to share with the public that McFarland's Best Award was presented to Mary Pierce. Tom Mooney nominated Mary. Now, Mary was a longtime volunteer in Kathy Adams' first grade classroom, and she began volunteering with her grandchild's class, and then continued to faithfully volunteer twice a week for 16 years, through all types of weather conditions, well after her granddaughter had graduated from the district. Mary was known not only as a volunteer of her time, but very supportive of the elementary literacy efforts, including donating significant amounts of literacy resources. So we're able to present this award recognizing Mary for her contributions to the district. Unfortunately, Mary passed away on September 28th, so
Just recently.
we're glad to get this award presented to her prior to her passing, so
That's wonderful.
thank you
Thanks, Tom.
to Mary and her family.
Thanks very much, Tom.
Yeah, I think it's also important to note that it was requested that she be considered for one of the
Yes.
world's best in February of 2019. Of course, a month later, the pandemic hit. So it's just a matter of resurfacing this recognition, just a matter of like three weeks ago. So Aaron, thank you and Angie for expediting this request. We were able to present it to Mary when she was still aware of what's going on, and she certainly and her family appreciated it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Mooney, appreciation to McFarland Optimist Club and the McFarland Lions Club.
Yeah, what I want to do is, I think it's just good practice to acknowledge two of our service organizations here in the district that help support our students, even preschool through grade 12. And the two I would like to acknowledge tonight, the first, the Optimist Club of McFarland. They provide scholarships to our graduating students. They provide funds to the McFarland Youth Center. They sponsor the bike rodeo in the springtime to provide safe practices for kids, because we know how many kids ride their bikes to school. They've implemented the weekend snack sack for students in K through 5 to families that have food insecurities on weekends. They've implemented the Cuddle Up with the Book program by providing 5 to 7 books that students can keep at home, again, to add to their libraries, and this is a kindergarten through 8 program also. They also sponsor the monthly high school senior of the month program, and they will restart the student of the month program at Indian Mountain Middle School very shortly. The Lions Club here in town, again, they have a significant impact on kids and families. They conduct the annual vision screening to select grade levels at SEPs. They provide scholarships to graduating seniors. They provide funding to the McFarland Youth Center. They sponsor the annual Stuff the Bus campaign, collecting needed school supplies for students. They address monetary requests for eyeglasses or hearing aids for students in need. They distribute the literature for the Summer Lions Camp held up in northern Wisconsin. We've had students participate with that camp. They co-sponsor with the public library here the 1,000 Books Before Kindergarten literacy reading program. They also conduct food drives for the food pantry, which serves many of our families here in town. So at this point, I just want to acknowledge and thank our two service organizations for all they do to support our kids and families here in town.
Thanks very much, Tom.
Yep.
Education Week and its contents.
Okay, thanks again, Craig. Yeah, Education Week is a digital educational journal that comes out weekly. It's available online. There's a subscription rate that you pay to receive it. I consider it my own professional development as a member of the school board. But let me just share with you some topics that have been covered recently in Ed Week. These are the titles of some of the literature. The pandemic was a wrecking ball for K-12. We are still tallying the damage. What teachers of color say actually works to diversify the profession. 3 ways to avoid hurdles for social emotional learning. Teachers are ready for systemic change, are the schools. 6 reasons why we should see students as change makers. Students' math and reading plummet, erasing years of gains during the pandemic, particularly students of color and low income. And what is critical race theory, and why is it under attack? Again, those are they are articles that pertain to what's happening in our schools, in the educational systems now. They also provide other options in the way of opinions. And a couple of them are the danger of giving students feedback. You know, there are pros and cons to that. And standardized tests aren't the only meaningful data on student achievement. I think we've all heard that in our district specifically, that student performance, formal student assessment is just one way we measure our student performance. And then Ed Week also offers webinars. A couple of them that have just come up is critical ways leaders can build a culture of belonging and achievement, and other strategies for improving student outcomes with student-teacher relationships. Again, I use it as background knowledge, so when we discuss things at the board level, I have a little more in-depth understanding into what's going on. So I just share that as sort of a PD, professional development strategy that I use. Thanks, Craig.
You betcha. Thank you, Tom. Thanks very
Tom.
much.
Thanks, Tom.
Back to you, Mr. Tarnitzer.
Yes, I am pleased to recognize that this week is School Board Appreciation Week in the state of Wisconsin. This is a special time where we want to kind of build awareness and understanding about your role and the importance to our community. Really want to honor you. You've stepped up to take a challenge during a difficult time, and I think a lot goes behind the scenes that the public might not recognize in terms of the preparation that you do, the thoughtful conversations you have with people in order to make tough decisions. So thank you for spending so many hours studying and learning about education issues and in order to make us be better as a district. We appreciate your service to the community. Thank you to Angie for providing some unhealthy food for you. Feeling very sugary in the district office today, so enjoy that. We also are working on some gifts for you coming your way. One of which is these the cups that you may have seen. I should have mine with me. Courtesy of McFarland Manufacturing right here. Spark Manufacturing, and also, some items from school store for you, just to
My goodness.
thank you for your
Thank
service.
you.
Because, everybody needs a little bit of McFarland swag.
There you go.
But I appreciate you stepping up during this time. We're very fortunate to have the support of all of you.
Well, I think on behalf of the board, thank you very much, and I also think that I can speak for all when we do it, because we feel like the most important thing we can do is to help the kids in our community, our future leaders, and we just appreciate the support that we're given by the district very much. Thank you.
Yeah,
Mhm.
thank you.
Thanks.
Happy to. All right, with that, I will move on to the strategic plan update, if that's all right.
Yes.
So as you have heard, the listening sessions have been completed. There were 4 listening sessions. We had a really neat mix. Some of them, it was really fun. I would start them off, and then I would wave goodbye, and then Joe Schrader would go through the SWOT process that was shared earlier. And you'd have these mix of students and faculty and parents. It was really fun. And it sounded like they had some great conversation. We do have the results of those, and those will be shared out during the committee meetings, as well as, with other data.
How soon will that be?
When is the first committee meeting?
The first committee meeting's October 28th.
Yeah.
Yep, and those, so the 28th and 29th, and then November 11th and 12th, so
And they're different,
coming up.
are they? Are those two different?
Nope, they're
They're the same.
progressive. Yep,
It's progressive.
yep, so committee members that are expected to attend all 4
Yes, that's,
times.
yeah,
Yeah,
that was my question.
yeah, they're not, it's not an option. It's,
Yeah,
once you're on the to it's
that's what
gonna
I
take
thought.
us, and it's a day and a day and a
Well, it's a day and a half,
and
of
a
course.
half a day, over 2 sessions, so we're excited about it. We've got a nice group of people. Grateful for Angie for making all these arrangements, and we've got food and childcare and all kinds of things working, so.
Is there a list of the committee members available?
We do have that, we can share that with you, yep,
Okay.
yep. Got updated, there was somebody that contacted me just this weekend saying they'd like to join, so.
Perfect.
Good.
We still have some space if people are able to attend all the sessions. Excited about that. Any other questions about the strategic plan?
Aaron, what is the timeline following the second weekend of the committee's work?
Yeah, so our goal is to have things wrapped up and presented to you for your consideration. Ideally, by the end of the calendar year, if not early January. So there will be something for you to respond to, and we can do some revisions as you feel is necessary. So within a few weeks. The process is designed to really make it clear to the members when they're leaving what it'll look like. So quick
And then-
turnaround.
Then I have one other question, Aaron.
Yeah.
Dan Urad was talking about superintendent's evaluation and the job description and goals. What will be the relationship between what we decide, what the strategic plan will be for the district, and updating your job description or creating performance goals for the rest of the school year?
Yeah, great question. They do all need to work together. So the job description, the standards upon which you're evaluating my performance, and of course, our goals as a school as defined by or as a district as defined by the strategic plan. So that will really be up to you. The superintendent evaluation process is flexible, that we can incorporate some of those elements of the strategic plan as some of our measures and outcomes and priorities. So that will be really important. I'm glad you brought that up, Tom, to make sure that the strategic plan, that your evaluation of me is reflected in, consistent with that strategic plan and
And
those goals.
we did update the job description prior to Aaron being hired, so it is pretty new, and we tried to incorporate quite a bit of what we thought the strategic plan would capture.
That was gonna be my next
That's-
question.
that's
Thank
the
you.
biggest.
Good.
Yeah,
Okay, awesome.
excellent.
Anything else?
Aaron, one other question.
Yeah.
Who will be presenting the strategic plan after all the committee work? Will it be school staff, or will it be community members or other members of the committee that will be reporting back to us on their work?
Yeah, I'm not sure how that works. I feel like it'll probably be me to some degree. And I don't know how, I'm sure we could involve different members of the committee as they feel comfortable, of course. But yeah, that might be an interesting thing if you'd like to have, I'm sure we could have people come and report about their experience with the process and how they came to that. Because I know not all the board members will be there, so if that's something the board's interested in, we could, maybe we want to have a representative. I'm not telling you what to do. But one thing to consider is we could have, let's say a student, a parent, staff member, or a couple of each to kind of show the different roles, community member.
And the only reason why I asked that question, Aaron, is that if we have a broader spectrum of folks reporting back to the board, it increases the likelihood of a stronger relationship and ownership.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever plan we come up with.
I like that.
I agree. I think that's correct.
Thank you.
Anything else?
No, but thanks, Aaron, for all your work with this.
Thank you. I'm excited about it. Sometimes the problem I have in my life, and you'll see this when we do the evaluation, is I'm always thinking about what we're not doing instead of acknowledging this is a big step for the district and this is important work, so. All right.
Strategies for assessing staff morale.
So during the retreat, this was one of the things we talked about is how do we gauge staff morale? And so, it's not something for you to take action on. I just wanted to come back to you and share some of kind of my thoughts, and it's a discussion, so as you have ideas, feel free to share. A couple things that I think will be key to this process, and some of this I actually shared during the interview process for this position, so this may sound very familiar, but I feel like in order to assess staff morale, you need to have a variety of options so you can include as many voices as possible. And part of that is looking at the opportunities that are, yes, surveys are part of that process. And so I'm going to be meeting with school perceptions, I feel like it's next week, soon, about a staff survey that would be able to compare our results to other districts in the area in terms of staff morale, a formalized structure, but then also listening sessions, opportunities for building leadership teams to ask specific questions. Actually, Dr. Cutler mentioned some of those practices as well. So a variety of opportunities, and including opportunities for individuals to share their feedback. And importantly, I think exit surveys as being another key indicator about staff morale. And I know the district has talked about that. Tom's been a real champion of that work. We looked at that data at the retreat.
Do we currently do that on a routine, regular
Yes.
basis? We always have an exit interview with anyone that leaves for whatever reason?
Yep, and we make sure we do them in intervals to make sure we catch everybody.
Okay,
When they
good.
when they exit. So that's been a routine practice, and that is through schools, we use the service school perceptions for that work as well. And then something that I think is really important are using your data to assess staff morale. And Dr. Cutler mentioned this as well about retention. You know, that's certainly an indicator of staff morale, as well as attendance. Can be an indicator of staff morale. Now, there's, so many factors that impact attendance, but that's something to keep an eye on. So I like the idea of us having like a kind of a continuum and a cycle of things that we could do to assess staff morale, and then doing as close to repeating that process from year to year to look for trends and changes. So those are just some of the thoughts that I've had over time, but I welcome your ideas and thoughts as well.
Well, it's certainly an issue. And I think it's one that we all recognize that needs to be addressed sooner rather than later. I would urge that anyway. Any other questions for Aaron regarding staff, measuring staff morale?
This is my take on some of this, is that my sense is that many school staff, I would say teachers / support staff, have been reluctant to respond to some surveys. They don't trust that the information they provide will remain confidential. There's a fear that there'll be retribution if that information gets back to whoever. So I'd like to keep that in mind, whatever we do in the future. The other thing, I know this isn't the night to talk about the how to do it, but there are a couple of strategies that we can use to seek a lot of good input, and then as next step, verify that information that we obtained through different types of processes again. But again, I think the best route that we can take as a board and as a district is to assure staff, whatever their input or feedback is, either through focus groups, surveys, whatever, that information will be confidential if it's a survey, and or if it's like in a focus group, that there will be no retribution or anything like that, because that is a real fear out there.
What's our next step on this? Because I think this is something that, you can check the box, but I think staff morale is something we have to just keep coming back to again and again. I think at that point, it is finally acknowledged by the staff that, oh, they are really taking this seriously. So do we have any plans? Do you have anything? I don't. I'm just wondering what our next step might be.
Well, I'm meeting with, as I said, with school perceptions to see what kind of a climate survey that they could do. And it could be, getting to Tom's concern, which is disappointing, that staff would be, worried about retribution. That is a sign of a trust issue within the district that I think is important to acknowledge. But sometimes using an outside vendor like that may offer that a little more sense of anonymity. The results go to school perceptions, not to us. That might be beneficial. I could, if the board would like, I could put together kind of a draft of like an annual cycle of school staff morale indicators, and how we would assess those over time.
I'd be interested
That'd be
to
good.
know.
Would there be merit to pull some staff together, K-12, for K-12, and ask them, if we were to do a survey, what types of questions would you like to see on a survey? Because what we think might be different from what others think.
Yeah, it's all perspective.
It is. And I think, Aaron, you certainly hit it on the head. It's a trust issue. And I know, maybe Aaron, you'll remember, and maybe Craig, you will. Years ago, we did the parent, staff, and student survey, either K through 12 or 3 through 12, from school perceptions. Talk about school climate, curriculum, a lot of things. And one of them was sort of school culture or climate. And that survey seemed to be quite thorough. And staff always seemed to be, very willing to fill that out and all that. I know looking at some of the results in the past, they were certainly free to voice whatever they wanted to, and that seemed to be a pretty good tool at that time. I'm not sure, what it might look like today.
Yeah, we used when I first came here, we used the Carry.
Yes, you're right. Yeah.
And that was kind of I think it was a locally developed, from what I remember.
I know the Administrative Council added some items to it, so there must have been the
Some
Carry
flexibility.
Institute. They sent some sample questions. Craig, do you remember that?
Yes, I do. That was interesting. I thought it was pretty productive, too.
Mm-hmm. I think so.
I really do. I think it's a great idea, Tom.
We
And it
used
was
it,
given,
go ahead.
oh, and it was given annually. So they could,
correct.
at the baseline, and they could see where the growth or the deficits were from year to year.
Yeah, and that was, we would use that, Tom and I, would use
Yes.
that to set our school improvement goals.
Yes,
As
you're right,
another
Aaron.
indicator.
Yeah.
Same in high school.
Students' sense of belonging or things, so.
Yeah.
Yep, so I'm definitely interested in that, and, when I've asked around about, I reached out to I should have told you this, to area superintendents about what they're using, and school perception came up over and over as a tool. And one of the pieces of advice that I was given by my veteran superintendent colleagues was, if you don't have something in place right now, use something that's already been developed to start. And then you can do your own, but you're gonna learn something from that process. And there's gonna be questions on there that you wouldn't necessarily think of on your own, that you can then, not that you're gonna steal them, but you can then adapt them,
Tweak them.
yes, to your own needs.
I like that idea also.
I do too.
Anything else?
No, thanks,
We'll
Aaron.
move along to the district administrator's report in that case.
A lot of me.
A lot of you.
Got a couple recognitions, right? So homecoming. So this has been really exciting for me to see homecoming through the district. And I think sometimes when we talk about homecoming, we think of it as a high school event, but it really is a district event. And so going around and seeing the different dress-up days and those kind of things, and we had the parade, right? We had the floats in the parade and things. It was a real community. One of the things, if you saw the Tarnitzer's travels from the pep rally, the pep rally was student-designed and student-led, and it really was exciting. I couldn't believe, I thought, seriously, an hour? Like, how are you gonna hold their attention? Well, it was a beautiful day, and we were outside. That certainly helped, but they kept it moving, and it was so much fun. I had such a blast at that, and so appreciate that. Also wanted to acknowledge the high school students and staff specifically. It's been such a difficult time, and throughout the district, certainly, with some of the challenges we've had over the last couple of weeks. And I am so grateful for the opportunity to have spent more and more time with the high school staff and students, getting to know them. I mean, just really people of integrity invested in this district and making us better. It's one thing to talk about student voice, and it's another thing to sit in a room and hear kids speak their truth to you. It's really been impactful on me as a person and as a leader. So I just wanted to acknowledge those opportunities, as well as community members. Had some great conversations just today. I want to recognize that. And other recognitions, and I guess I'm moving into upcoming dates and events, but so yesterday was National Custodial Workers Recognition Day. Wanted to acknowledge that. They do it on Sunday,
Yeah, I know, that's weird.
which I think is kind of funny, but it's good. But, you know, one of the things you'll see in the strategic plan and the SWOT analysis, you'll see over and over our facilities. And it's not because they're brand new, it's because they're well-maintained.
Oh,
Totally.
So,
our custodial and our buildings and grounds folks are
Yeah.
incredible. Back before we tore down the old elementary school, you'd come in there on the first day of school and it looked like it was new.
It's just
These
amazing.
people do a fantastic job. I wish I had known it was
Yeah.
their day, but to
Yeah.
have it on a Sunday,
Well,
makes
and
it a
it,
little tough.
and in addition to keeping things clean and well-maintained, the other thing that I think often goes unnoticed is event setup and management,
You bet.
which is a big part of their job. I think you just sort of show up to something and you forget, like, somebody had to set this up and make this happen. So thank you to them.
And that just, I mean, that's every day of the week.
Yeah.
We have things happening every day of the
And
week in our,
weekends.
yeah,
And weekends, right?
yep. Yeah.
Interesting. October is Bullying Prevention Month, and so we do different things at different buildings to talk to students about bullying. It's just a nice time of year too. They've settled in a little bit, and so each building has their own way of talking about it. Obviously, as you get older, it gets a little more formal in terms of those discussions. So excited about that. It's also National Principals Month. So take some time. I got a little bit of empathy for what it's like to be a principal. It is like running around with your pants on fire all day long, every day. It's exhausting and wonderful work. So thank you to our amazing principals, including our associate principals. This Thursday is open house at CEPS. We've had high school open house in September, and now CEPS has an open house. Excited about that. Thursday is also National Coach Day. And I think we have a really solid reputation for amazing coaches throughout the district across the many activities and sports that we have here in the district. One of the things that I know as the athletic director, Paul Ackley, takes a lot of pride in is how many staff coaches that we have. But it's that special connection that they can carry between the different activities, different parts of their day. On Friday, October 7th, is World Smile Day. So I just want to encourage you to
Friday, that is?
to smile on Friday, yeah. But you should smile every day. Next week is Fire Prevention Week. The 10th is a couple things. One is it's World Mental Health Day, and certainly we hear over and over about the mental health needs of everyone in our school community, but especially our students. It's also Indigenous Peoples Day. So the district will have different levels of recognition of this day throughout the different buildings. The buildings each have their own unique plan. They've been sending those to me. I got a couple of things today, but that's an important day to recognize in the Indigenous Peoples Day and our land that we are currently working upon. I also wanted to recognize National School Lunch Week is coming up next week. School Bus Safety Week is the week of the 17th. I mean, we're just recognizing a lot of stuff, so
It's hard to keep up.
it is.
Bit.
And if
There's
you
a lot
don't
to
mind,
recognize.
this Wednesday is new staff at the dinner.
Oh, yeah,
Fall
new
dinner.
staff dinner right at Angelo's
4
this
o'clock, I
Wednesday,
believe.
yep.
Yeah.
At 4 o'clock. All the board members are welcome to attend. We will feed you. And then a note in terms of school board business, our next meeting is the 24th, so looks like we're going for another good record for our board meeting, so we're going to give you a little break until the 24th. 6:30 will be a regular school board meeting, and then at 7, we will have our annual meeting, and encourage the public to attend that as well.
So it's not a closed session per se, it is just a regular?
Correct, yeah, it's
6:30.
just 6:30
Good, 'cause
start.
I wasn't sure.
Yep.
Yeah, so the time.
Yep, so what we'd like to do with that meeting, I'm acting like I know, I've been told, what we like to do with that 6:30 meeting is just get through the business, so, consent agenda items, those kind of things, so that we don't have that long of a
Right.
delay
Yep.
between them, and then jump into the annual meeting. So excited for my first annual meeting.
Unfortunately, we don't attract a big crowd to the annual meeting.
Jim Hickey's told me
Jim
he's
Hickey
going to
will
be here.
come.
He's going to
Yeah.
be here.
He will come, but
Yeah.
otherwise, it's a little disappointing, I guess, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
It is what it
Anything
is.
else?
I think that's enough, don't you?
Yeah, I do too. Yeah. Well, we have a couple of action items, I think. The first being action on the superintendent evaluation process. We should discuss, I guess, a little bit. Are we indeed interested in pursuing the Wsb superintendent evaluation model? I think I would recommend following that model. I think it's good help. I don't think financially it's a burden at all.
It was hard to follow from the readings that we had, I mean, because they tailor it to each of the schools, and I believe, what was it, New Glarus? Is that who we? Yeah, it was
I
New
think so.
Glarus. And, I mean, they just had, it was so different, and, I was looking at, what we have for our superintendents, the job description, or the, our bylaws on it. I guess the only thing I would say is I really think, I don't know, I'm gonna come out. I just think, Aaron, you should have a lot of say in this, what you feel most comfortable with. Because it's new to you, I know it's gonna be new to me. I think it's new to you, Kate and Megan. Tom is old and old hat at it, and so are you, Craig. But
You
I thought we were just gonna leave it
I
at
didn't mean
old.
that, sorry, Tom, I left that just kind of hanging out there. But I think in some ways, I know that Aaron has so much on his plate, and obviously, again, a lot of what we're gonna evaluate him on is gonna be probably the strategic plan. So
Yeah.
I just felt like, I don't feel comfortable yet right now saying, let's do this, but at the same time, sometimes you gotta jump in and start swimming.
That's all right.
After I took time to review the examples that Aaron provided last meeting, I did email him and ask him if he had pros and cons that he liked, and I don't know if you want to share what you wrote
Sure.
back to me, or,
Yeah, so as I look at the models and think about what is best practice, it's logical to me to move with a model that's been well-designed and vetted and isn't specific to any one community. There's flexibility in the WASB model to adapt it, but it's not specific to one district. And so when you look at some of the, district-created resources, that's dependent upon the board at the time and the
Yeah.
people that are involved.
It's hard to do comparables.
Yeah, and
It
this at
really
least is vetted with the standards in mind, but also providing some flexibility. It's got a clear process, and again, it gets to what I was talking about before when my superintendent friends, I think, maybe we're friends, say that if you don't have a model, using something that's been designed is a great place to start. The alternative is we spend time together designing our own model. And so my preference would be to go with something that's already been done and thoughtfully.
Well, I was impressed by what Mr. Nirad said.
Nirad,
The
yeah.
idea that, that first of all, tailor it to your specific, job description. And as Kate, you pointed out, ours is brand new, really, or relatively new. So in some ways, I think that's not a bad idea. So, am I changing my mind, Craig? I think I am.
That's okay.
I also like that they have a different approach to first year superintendents. I think that's thoughtful.
It only makes sense.
Yeah.
Two vastly different
The expect,
experiences, you know, it's, that makes perfect sense to me. Kate, what do you think?
I mean, I feel like the first year, like Bruce said, the majority of what we're going to be evaluating is strategic plan creation and kind of initial planning with it. So I don't know how relevant, I mean, I don't know. Maybe the first year will be very helpful, this, first year evaluation, maybe it won't. I think it's fine. It's fine.
No strong opinions.
No,
It's okay.
I wasn't wowed, but I
Yeah.
also think that it's fine.
yeah, I think it's a good, I think the other advantage to following a model that's already been created and tested also sets up kind of the board member experience to be more manageable as opposed to having to create something.
Totally.
Like recreate the wheel, if you will. So I mean, I like that part of it, and it certainly seems like lots of districts have been using it successfully with positive feedback, so.
I agree.
I'd be up for trying, and I mean, the investment is so low that if we try it and we don't like it,
Right.
Like that whole fail fast
Your
approach.
question.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I think you're right. Tom? What do you think?
Yeah, I certainly concur with thinking to go with the WASB model. What I find particularly helpful is that partnership between the board and the superintendent and the indicators associated with each of the standards, because that would really help us understand what we should be looking for. So again, I'm very comfortable with moving forward, or at least endorsing the WASB. If nothing else, it will expose to the board and familiarize ourselves with the types of evaluation or components that we should be looking at in the future.
Agreed.
And again, and I guess I'm at a different advantage than most of you, so I can't say once you get into it, you're going to love it and it'll be easy, just because you haven't had that experience. But from my experience, I think it's a solid model to go with.
Thanks very much, Tom. In that, I concur. I think we have a consensus here, so I think I'll make the motion. I'll move to approve the implementation of the WASB Superintendent Evaluation Model. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Tom? Any other discussion? Any further discussion? Hearing none.
One other point, just is that we should really take a look at the calendar of events that Aaron gave us during the board retreat, I think, and identify 2 dates when we want to try out this evaluation tool. Because I know Dan was talking about you should do it twice a year and all that. So now, not tonight, but sometime in the near future, identify maybe a January date and a June date. Just so that we can institutionalize some timelines when it comes to evaluating the superintendent's performance evaluation.
I like it. I think you're right.
Great.
Anything else? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. And we've got one other action item, and I think maybe it would be best if we set up. Oh, we don't?
Yep.
The other
It
one.
was
okay.
included.
It was included up above.
All right,
Yeah, we're good.
okay. I would look for a motion for adjournment then.
I will make that.
Bruce?
I will second.
Kate? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you very much, one and all. Great job tonight.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Tom.